Yes, you read it right. Spain also has ancient pyramids. Not one, not two, but 6 of them. And there used to be more. Currently, there are 3 main explanations for them: agriculture, Freemasonry, or the ancient Canary people. But I argue there could be a 4th one: Atlantis. Don't freak out just yet, just hear me out. If you go 1,000 miles into the sea, right in the middle of Europe and America, you find the Azores archipelago. And if you go straight into the main island, you will see very, very similar pyramids, but more on the Portuguese pyramids in a later video, so make sure to subscribe. For now, let's travel back to the Canary Islands.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hello everyone, sorry for the long gap since my last upload. I know it's been a while, but I do appreciate your patience and support comments in the latest videos. It means a lot. As you're probably aware, I've been busy reading and investigating the credibility of Atlantis and the possible locations of such civilization. But for the new viewers, first of all, welcome to the family, and secondly, no, I don't mean an underwater world with an alien technology and demi-gods, but a much simpler, more realistic seafaring civilization that was lost in the history records. It was during that search that I came across Spain, more specifically the Canary Islands. When we think of pyramids, our minds might go straight to Egypt or South America, but as I have shown in my previous videos, there are pyramids spread across the globe, from Sudan in North Africa to China in East Asia, and Spain is no different. In the main island of the archipelago, Tenerife, 6 of the 9 discovered pyramids are still standing to this day, with the biggest one being 12 meters tall. The origin of these pyramids are still debated between historians, but there are 3 main versions. One which claims there are simply stone deposits from the surrounding farmers as they plowed the fields and removed the rocks to facilitate agriculture, which to me, this clearly doesn't look to be the case, so I will respectfully ignore. The other 2 being a connection to Freemasonry or the ancient civilization of Guanches. But let's start with the first one. In 1991, researchers of the Canary Institute of Astrophysics showed that the long sides of some of the structures at Güímar marked the direction of both solstices. The main limiting wall points to the sunset in the summer solstice, and the pyramids have stairs on their western side which face the direction of the rising sun on the winter solstice. Also, standing on the platform of the largest pyramid on the day of the summer solstice, it is possible to experience a double sunset. As first, the sun sets behind the mountaintop, then it emerges again from behind the mountain and sets a second time behind the neighboring peak. However, it is impossible, based solely on these observations, to conclude what was the intention of the builders or the date of the construction. Another interesting fact that I encountered was that magma tunnels have been found underneath the pyramids, but I couldn't confirm it with peer-reviewed sources. More studies need to be done. The researchers published a book in 2005 titled The Pyramids of Güímar: Myth and Reality, in which they suggest that the solstitial orientations of the pyramids were potentially motivated by Masonic symbolism. The authors argue that solstices are very important in the symbolism of Freemasonry, and that the owner of the land where the pyramids were built was himself a Freemason. This motivation would be only an aesthetic one and would not modify in any rate the fundamental motivation and date of the construction. The second theory points to a more feasible explanation, and for me, one that could very well be connected to the myth of Atlantis. The connection to the ancient Canary people, the Guanches. These Berber populations that arrived in the archipelago around the 1st century AD are very mysterious due to the lack of information and available data. They came from North Africa either due to political pressure or a Roman persecution, but later on, when the Spaniards arrived, they noticed that they were not sailors or a seafaring civilization. So how did they get there? Well, historians debate that they were either brought over to the island or came by their own means but lost the knowledge through time. But scientists are sure of one thing: they came to stay, as they arrived with goats, sheep, pigs, and seeds. Seeds that were stored in massive silos caved on top of the mountains and guarded 24/7 by guards. Not only that, but recent excavations have found objects, mummies, and even a mysterious calendar that historians are still trying to decode, together with its symbols. In 1990, Norwegian adventurer and publisher Thor Heyerdahl became aware of the Canary Pyramids by reading an article written by Francisco Padrón in a Tenerife paper detailing real pyramids on the Canaries. As Thor had hypothesized a transatlantic link between Egypt and Central America, he became intrigued by the Güímar pyramids and relocated to the island. There, Thor researched possible parallels between the Canary terrace structures and pyramid structures in Egypt and Central America in pre-Columbian Mesoamerica as ceremonial areas. Thor hypothesized that the Canarian pyramids formed a temporal and geographic stopping point on voyages between ancient Egypt and the Mayan civilization, initiating a controversy in which historians, esoterics, archaeologists, astronomers, and those with a general interest in history took part. For those of you wondering why only 6 pyramids out of the 9 have survived, I believe I have an explanation. You see, people back then didn't really care about preserving history as much as they did about simply surviving, and I can't blame them. Only now that we live in a world where some people live their whole lives in constant stability without a fear of starvation or imminent danger, that humans started to focus on more intricate things, such as art, mathematics, physics, history, and so on. Take Egypt, for example. The Great Pyramids used to be covered in a smooth white limestone that will make them reflect the sunlight in all directions and project their power and grandeur even further. But after the fall of the empire, locals simply started chipping away the stone to build their houses without caring for tradition or preservation. Or the example of the Sudanese pyramids, where reckless so-called European explorers and tomb raiders literally blew up most of them in order to find some kind of treasure. I've done a video on it, make sure to check it out.